Hello, I'm Carrie, and welcome to episode 8 of the Sego Fibers podcast. Welcome and welcome back. This is a knitting podcast where I talk about all the things I'm working on, things I've finished, and things I would like to be working on in the future as far as knitting goes. And sometimes I throw in other crafty things as they pop up, but I think today it's pretty much knitting. And at the end, I have a special section where I'll take you along with me on my recent trip to Idaho Falls for the 4th of July. And so if you're interested in a classic Americana experience, then stick around. And I also just want to say, it's been a while since I've seen you guys. I've really missed doing this. It's been about a month, I think, and it feels like a long time. Yeah, things just really hit at once. So we had 2 trips this month, the 4th of July Idaho Falls trip. We had another camping trip, and I picked up some graphic design freelance work, and I'm doing a bit of volunteering. So like all of these things are kind of hitting at the same time, and so I didn't have time to record this month until now. But I've been very excited and looking forward to doing this, so it's great to be back, and I hope to be back more regularly, but I'm not sure exactly how it's going to work out because the freelance and volunteering is going to last for a bit. So yeah, I will do my best because I really enjoy podcasting, but we'll see how it goes. Your patience with the scheduling is very much appreciated, and so thank you in advance. So let's jump right into things. First of all, I do have a finished object. This is the ranunculus, and so I have some footage of me kind of standing up in this, so I'll just insert that. But I'm really proud of how this turned out. It was a lot of fun to do. Yeah, so I'm just really thrilled. The yarn I used is tangles. Okay, I used Yarn Bee Sugar Wheel Cotton Solids. I got this from Hobby Lobby, one of the big craft stores here in the US. And this is 100% cotton, and in the colorway Snow Capped. It's a bright white, basically. And you can see like normal price is about $6, but they often have like 30% off sales on their yarn, like every other week probably. And so when I was there, I looked at the yardage, and this was a 142 gram cake when I got it, or 5 ounces, and 335 meters. And so it's kind of an unusual size, but I'll take it. And anyway, I got 2 of these, and so after the discount, it was just over $8 for the 2 cakes, and it turned out to be the perfect amount of yarn. This is all I have left. I wanted to be able to make a whole garment out of what I got, and so I was able to do that, and I was also trying to use up as much as possible so there wasn't very much left over. And so I don't think that's very much. I'm not quite sure what I'll do with it, but who knows, scraps come in handy eventually. But even though it's 100% cotton, like cotton has a reputation for being hard on the hands, this is extremely soft. It's like knitting with marshmallows, basically. It's super fluffy. It even has a bit of a halo. You can kind of see it there. It's very floofy. My guess is that it's about a DK weight. I don't know exactly, but that would be my guess. And the needles I used, let me see my notes because I forgot. The main needle I used for the vast majority of it is a 4.5 millimeter. I did swatches on a whole range of different size needles just to see what kind of fabric I liked, because my goal for this was to make like a single layer top. Sometimes when you make a ranunculus, it can be rather airy and see-through, and I just didn't want to have to wear a cami or anything with it. I just wanted a single layer grab and go kind of t-shirt, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. I can do that. And for the hems, so like the sleeve ribbing and the hem at the bottom, I used a 3.75 millimeter. Although I think for the next time I do this, because I'm definitely thinking of a next time, I'm planning on using the same yarn but in different colors. They have like a muted light blue, I think called Overcast, that I would love to do it in. There's a black that I think would look really nice, and a light pink. And I think all of those would look really great with this pattern. I'm super happy with how this turned out and where the lace falls. I like how the last bit of detail kind of comes at the tip of the shoulder. I thought that was kind of nice. Although it's sliding down a bit now that I've worn it. So I've worn this a lot already, and it was kind of crumpled in a pile, so if it looks wrinkly, that's why. But it's really, really comfortable. I like how loose it is, although I think, did I do that? I might have used the main needle for this one. I don't remember now. I don't remember what size needle I used for this. It was either the main one or no, I think I used the smaller one, because I think in my notes I put next time use the main needle for the ribbing and the bind off. So for the bind offs everywhere, I just did tubular bind offs because it looks really nice and it's stretchy. And I did a tubular cast on. No, I did the cast on that she specified for the smaller neckline. And I knit the size 7 because my gauge was different. Let's see, my gauge was 18 stitches per 4 inches. And yeah, so based on, I guess, my gauge and the measurements in the pattern, I just picked a size 7 because I thought that would work. And it's actually way baggier than I expected. So I think next time I will shoot for fewer stitches on the body and more stitches on the sleeves, just a little bit more here. It's very comfortable and I like that it's fitted, but I think it might do with a few more next time. But yeah, I'm really happy. I can't wait to make more. I'm thrilled that I can make a beautiful knitted project for about $8. That's really encouraging to me, because it's like, okay, even if I'm on a small budget, I can still make something really beautiful and useful and nice, and so that's exciting. And I could even do these as gifts, I think. If I get like measurements for people or whatever, this would be a really nice one. It really didn't take very long to make, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and that's in the midst of doing lots of other things, and so yeah, I think it was a great project. All right, my second work in progress is a project that keeps popping up in different iterations. So this is Mella's Summer Top by Camilla Carlson, and this is where it is now. So this pink part hasn't changed in any of the iterations, but this section here has had 2 or 3 versions? I can't remember. It feels like a lot because I keep ripping it back. But yeah, so last time I think I showed it, I probably had a bit more than this knit, but it was with this brown stripe here, and then I was using like a variegated linen yarn in between the brown stripes, and the stripes were really getting lost, and the color in the skein of the variegated skein was knitting up very differently than I was expecting, and I just wasn't really happy with it, and there was low contrast and you couldn't really tell what was going on, and so I was like, I mean, it's still worth knitting because I feel like getting the numbers and the fit and the proportions and just figuring that part out, because this is my first true raglan and I've not done one before. So I just need to start somewhere and finish something so I see what to do next time. So even though it still would have been worth it to finish, I was like, it would be nice if I liked it enough to wear it. I know that seems kind of obvious, but oh well. So I got to thinking, I have other linen yarn besides that variegated that I was using that I had kind of been saving for maybe next summer to use in something. I wasn't sure what. And then I was thinking, you know, I have this pattern project right here. I could use it in this to probably make something that I'm more likely to wear. Why not just use it? And so I did. So I chose two greens. This lighter green, I'll put the yarn information in the caption here, and this more medium green. And I also decided to include some scraps from a previous linen shirt that I made. And so the scraps are this berry color, this white, and this light pink. It's kind of hard to tell the difference between the light pink and the white, but it's subtle. Let's see. So the yarn for this, the pink one is Euroflax, and all the rest are Fibra Natura flax. Let's see if I have some of the skeins and stuff here. All right, here's one of them. Here's the Fibra Natura, and Wild Lime is the colorway for that brighter pink or brighter green. And here's the ball band for the Euroflax. And the colorway for the pink is Pink Panther. And here is Wild Lime and the other green. Sorry, I don't have all the colors memorized for these. Let's see. Oh, here's a bit of the pink, the really light one. That's all but, I might have slightly more than this left that I'm gonna include. Here's the taupe brown color. And here are some of the berry scraps. And here's the white. So this is all about sport weight, or DK. I think Fibra Natura says it's DK, but it seems really thin to me. So the needles I'm knitting this with are 3.25 millimeters, and that's just because I like the gauge I get with it. It's small enough without being stiff, and I know from experience that it will soften up and drape really nicely, and so I figured I'd just go with it. I do have a different gauge from the pattern though, so I'm making the size extra large to get something around a size small. We'll see after I finish it and measure it, like what I actually end up with. But so far it's working and it fits. There's going to be plenty of room in the body. And as far as the striping goes, I knew from just like knitting the brown stripes that a single row or round takes 2 grams of yarn. And so I calculated, I weighed all my different balls of different colored yarn and divided the weight in grams by 2, and it's that many rounds that I could include. And so then I created a Google Sheets doc, and so I was like, okay, I can have this many rows of this color, this many rows of that color. How do I want to organize these into a striping pattern that I like or makes sense to me? And so I wanted something that would be regular and repeat, and so I'm basically going to repeat this. This is nearly a full repeat. So it'll be brown, berry, white, lime, then brown, berry, light pink, and the medium green. And then it'll just keep doing that until we get to the bottom hem, where I have a little bit of the pink left, and so I'll finish the hem with that. And so hopefully it'll look cohesive and that kind of thing. This color combo reminds me a lot of springtime, and so I'll probably mostly wear it in the spring. And it also really reminds me of a Vera Bradley purse that I had in middle or high school. Do you guys remember Vera Bradley, or do you still have any? It was super popular back then in the circles I was in. I just felt so cool. But anyway, this makes me think of that. So part of me feels like this is very like middle high school to me, but it's like not necessarily. Okay, just I'll feel young-ish in the spring when I wear this. We'll see. Anyway, that's just kind of funny. For my second work in progress, I'm working on a pair of mittens that you've already seen. And these are the Weekday mittens from the book Knit Like a Latvian by Ieva Ozolina. I love these ones on the cover. But the ones I'm making right now are these. I like the simple geometry of them, and they have a really pretty kind of notched edge on the cuff. And the yarn I'm using for these is Jamieson and Smith, and this is the main color. I'm so in love with their yarn. It is really pretty. This color is 2006. And the contrast color is FC50 Mix. I love how fuzzy it is. It's woolen spun, 100% Shetland wool, and it's just really floofy. I love it. And I think they look really nice together. It has more of a subtle contrast because it's not like super light and super dark. But I think the end result is really nice, and you can still see the contrast. And so this is where I've gotten so far. And you can see something weird with the needles. These are actually on hold, so I just stuck these on. And the needles I'm actually using for the project are 1.5 millimeter 8-inch carbons needles. I was struggling at the beginning. Oh, well, just as a point of comparison, because I think it's really funny. Okay, this is a 2.25, which is what I usually use for socks. And this is the carbons for the mittens. I don't know if you can see it, but the size difference I think is really big. But maybe it's not showing up so much. Anyway, these are by far the tiniest, skinniest needles I've ever used. But let's see, what do I do with this? Okay, stabbed a ball of yarn. Alright. Anyway, this is on hold currently, but this is how the colors and the stitch pattern is working up, and I'm really happy with it. I love the colors, and it's really nice. This is also my first real pattern, or first pattern doing real stranded color work, besides an attempt maybe a couple years ago that epically failed. And so I've been practicing other kinds of projects that have you have a looser tension or do strands of some sort, even though it's one color. And so I feel like that's helped. But I'm very far from expert on this. And so you can see that the reason this one's on hold is because according to the pattern, this is supposed to be straight, and that's supposed to be straight. This is the same number of stitches. However, this is much narrower than this. So for this part of the project, I was really just trying to get my head around holding the needles, because these are DPNs, and I never use DPNs. And so like the last time I think I used DPNs was many years ago, and I've just done magic loop for everything since then. And so it took quite a while to like not stab myself in the face and get everything in the right order for the DPNs and make sure my hands are doing what they need to do, along with handling 2 strands of yarn at the same time and trying to figure out how to catch floats. And like there was just a lot to be aware of at the same time that I was just like, okay, just get the mechanics down and I'll deal with tension later. And so by the time I got up to here, I felt comfortable enough to start checking my tension and trying to loosen up a bit more. And so I did loosen up. I was like, okay, that's fine. I'll just block this part out. I'll stretch it out farther. No big deal. Yeah. So I kept knitting and I kept knitting. I was knitting this part on a trip, and so I got into a really good rhythm on it, and I was like, okay, I know what to do now. I'm getting used to this. I'm getting used to loosening my tension and sliding the stitches to make sure they're not too tight, and I'm getting used to this. This is nice. This is working. And so like I started flying through this, and it's like, well, I should probably check if the pattern actually had a gauge and see like where in the spectrum my gauge is correct, if it is. And so this was up here, the most correct gauge to the pattern. I'm trying to see if, let me check what the gauge was. Okay. So according to the book, there should be 17 stitches per 2 inches. And there was definitely more stitches than that here, and it was very close up here, like maybe within half a stitch, correct? So like, okay, so I know this is what I'm shooting for, so I need to keep this style of tensioning, I guess. And then I thought like, well, could I just like really stretch it out and block it? Yeah, probably, but then like this part would be shorter because it's stretched out to be wider, and then it wouldn't match whatever next mitten I make because more yarn would be used and it would be longer because it was done correctly. And so like, oh, that was a bit discouraging because that means probably ripping back and starting over, like totally starting over on this mitten. And so that wasn't thrilling me. And because really all that's left for this one is one more, let's see, I think one more row, one more pattern repeat of this thing, and then the decreases and the thumb. So I have like, here you might be able to see the hold stitches there. And then, so I'll pick up the stitches around that and make the thumb come out. So I have most of this one done, but it's not right. So I set that aside, and I have duplicate balls of the same colors. So I just picked those up and started making a second mitten to really see if it would be necessary to rip that one back or not, because I didn't want to have to do it if I didn't have to. Or I didn't want to do it if I didn't have to. And so now I've gotten this far on the second one. And I think the pattern's showing up better. I'm so encouraged at how this is looking. It feels very flat. It's not puckering, and it's very stretchy. It's like much more stretchy than I thought color work would be. And just as a point of interest, since DPNs were super new to me, and it's the first time I've used this kind of yarn, and I'm using much smaller needles than I'm ever used to, and like this part of the cuff, like just this little bit here, probably took me 4 hours It was very frustrating and tedious. And I was pretty much dreading doing the second one. Just like, okay, it'll be worth it when it's done. I would love to give these as a gift to someone special. Like, okay, do it, it's worth it. But for the second one, it only took me like doing the entire cast on cuff and even into some of the color work was just an hour and a half. So from 4 to 1.5, that's really great improvement. And I think most of that is not holding the yarn so tightly. So the notch part was pretty difficult when I was holding it really tight, and picking up the stitches to do the fold over part was tricky because I had it too tight as well. But this time it just breezed on by and was quite enjoyable, and it wasn't hard at all. So that's very encouraging to know, like, okay, I can just pick up and go and it's not going to take forever. And it might actually be fun, which it is. So the size difference of these mittens is pretty dramatic because of the gauge. It's quite funny. Yikes. This one is so small compared to the other one. Like, it's a massive difference. Like, even like the row gauge and the stitch gauge, it's just like, there is no way that this could be blocked out to be anything close to it. And so I'm definitely going to rip back the first one and start that one over. But I think it'll definitely be for the best. And as I compare the top of the first one to the new cuff, they're the same. And so that's encouraging to me because that means like there's some consistency that's possible and I can continue to do that. But yeah, so my thinking is, even like, honestly, this looks really big to me, but I'm used to mittens that are cinched in at the cuff and kind of go out over your hand and then come back in. Latvian mittens don't do that. They're just straight with a peak. And so I think they might be fairly baggy around your hand and especially around your wrist. So I think that's just a different style than I was expecting. And my thought is, even if I try these on and they're a little bit big, they're 100% natural wool, so I could felt them a little bit and shrink them down to be the right size. And if they do felt, that's just going to make them warmer. And so that's a great thing. So I'm really not worried about them being too big. And like I said before, I'm just really pleased with this tension and the stretchiness of it. Like, they're super stretchy, which I would not expect for color work. And as far as the whole catching the float thing, I'm following the steps of Inga from Knitting Traditions in her podcast. I'll put a link to that as well. And so here's what my floats look like on the back. And so the longest float I have is like 2 stitches. So after every 2 stitches, I catch it. And what that does is it kind of spirals your stranded yarn in the back. So you're less likely to catch it on stuff. Like if you are wearing a ring or something, it's less likely to catch it as you put your mitten on. And it lets more yarn kind of hang out back there, and it makes it stretchier. And so it's neat and tidy and practical and stretchy. So it's like wins on all fronts in my thinking. So I'm really pleased with that. It took a little bit of getting used to, but it really wasn't that hard. And yeah, so I tried to film how I knit this, and it was in the car while I was on the trip. And so I'm literally like putting my phone right here and trying to hold it while I knit. And I wasn't able to aim it correctly because I couldn't see where it was actually filming. But if I can get a good enough shot of it, I will try to include it. I wasn't able, I wasn't able to knit as naturally as I normally do because I'm like doing this weird thing, but you can maybe at least get an idea, or I might record another clip of how I knit these just because I think it's interesting. We'll see what ends up happening. I really can't get over the difference of the tension. Like, that's just massive. This is the first time I've held it up to each other, and it's just really funny. But when I was first working on these, I said that this part took me like 4 hours to do, and then this was really slow as well. Like this, I spent like 2 or 3 days maybe just doing that much, and I was like, it's going to take all the way till Christmas to finish these. And it's like, but once I got up here and it started really flying, like I did this much, probably 2 or 3 days of, and I did not have much time to knit. I really didn't. And so I was very encouraged by that, and it makes frogging this not seem like such a big deal. And I did like this much in one day, that much another day. So it'll be doable. So I'm looking forward to keep going on these now that I know it's actually working. And yeah, so it should be smooth sailing from here. All right, and now for a bit of acquisitions. So while I was in Idaho Falls with my family, my mother-in-law took me and my sister-in-law Michelle out to a yarn store that she knows about and had a gift card to. And my sister-in-law Michelle is a huge crocheter. She crochets as much as, if not more, than I knit, and she's just prolific. She makes all sorts of amazing, beautiful things. And so it's definitely a treat for us all just to get out, go to the yarn store, look at everything, and see what we find. And so yeah, that was a super fun trip. And I also got to leave the kids at home during nap time, and so it was just free looking around and milling and browsing and all the things I can't normally do when I'm chasing 3 kids, 3 and under, at a store. But yeah, so that was very relaxing and fun. The local yarn store there is called the Yarn Connection, and yeah, we had a great time. They had all sorts of things, and project bags and various sewn things, a whole variety of hand-dyed yarn and different brands of more commercial yarn, and different kinds of fibers, cotton, acrylic, lots of wool, like pretty much something for everybody. And what I found are 6 balls of Lamb's Pride by Brown Sheep Company. And so this is based out of Mitchell, Nebraska, which isn't too far away if you're thinking about the West. But yeah, so I'm very excited about this. It's worsted weight and 85% wool and 15% mohair, single ply. I absolutely fell in love with the color. This is so me. Like if I had to be a color, this is what I would be. I love how fuzzy it is, and it's showing up a bit, it is showing up a bit brighter and slightly more pinky red on camera. It's a touch more purple, but how it is on camera and how it is in real life, I like both versions and they're fairly close. Oh, I guess actually that's a really accurate color back there. Yeah, so each skein, or this is a skein or a ball, doesn't look like a ball to me, I don't know what this is, but each one of these is 113 grams, 4 ounces, and 190 yards. Oh, this says per skein. It's a skein. And this is the color Mulberry and 162. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, so my plans, oh, that is upside down. There we go. Okay, there we go. My plans for this yarn is to make the Tulip Sweater by Melody Hoffman. And I'm very excited for that. I think it'll be really beautiful. Yeah, I love the simple styling of it, and the scalloped edge just really sets it apart. And I think the mohair and the single plyness of this yarn will really lend itself to that pattern because it has more of a fuzzy kind of look, and I think it will look really nice with that yarn. I think this yarn will have more stitch definition than the yarn she used, but I think it will look really nice, and it has a bit of sheen, and I'm quite excited to knit it and wear it. So hopefully sometime this fall I'll be able to cast that on. And when we got home, my mother-in-law actually brought out her yarn stash, and she is moving away from knitting and crochet and more totally into sewing and quilting, and so she was going to give us what was left in her stash. And so we each got some of this. So she had 3 colors of this Malabrigo Caracol yarn, and the color I received is called Aniversario, and the colors are just amazing, and it's super soft. It's a very unique yarn. Let's see, does it have the info on here? It doesn't say what the fiber content is, but it's about 90 yards per 150 grams, I think. And it recommends US 13 to 15 size needles, or 9 to 15 millimeter needles. So it's super, like, I'm not saying this as like a technical term, but it's super chunky. It's just really big, thick yarn. I've seen some really cool mitten and hat patterns where this is a contrast color with a really pretty kind of flower type stitch. I'll see if I can find a picture of an example of that. So I'm thinking of doing something like that with this. I think that'll be really pretty. I'm not sure what yarn to pair with it though. We'll see what pops up. And these skeins were also in her stash. More Lamb's Pride from the same store many years ago. And so the labels are a little different, but this is Lamb's Pride Bulky by Brown Sheep Company. And so I have, this one's a little messier. Yeah. So I have 2 skeins of this color. It is Charcoal Heather, and it has the same makeup as the one I showed previously. And so it's 85% wool, 15% mohair, 4 ounces or 113 grams per skein, and this one has 125 yards per skein. And so I have 2 of the gray and 1 of this bright blue. Let's see, I think that's more of a, yeah, that's more of an accurate color. They call it Dynamite blue. And so I'm not totally sure what to do with these yet, but I think it's really cool that I ended up with a whole bunch of Lamb's Pride. Like, coincidentally, that's pretty cool. I really like this gray color. I don't know if you can hear a helicopter, but it's going over right now. We live near a hospital, so sometimes we hear the medical helicopters, and then other times it's military stuff or news traffic type helicopters. I don't know. We see lots of helicopters. But anyway, so I really love this gray color, and I'll use it just as it is. This blue one is a bit bright for my taste, so I'm thinking of over dyeing it and using it, turning it into some other color to maybe use on its own or paired with these. So I think that's pretty exciting, and I look forward to kind of over dyeing a skein. I think that'll be fun. And let's see, she also gave me 2 sets of circular needles. So this is Takumi Clover 10mm or US 15 needles. So very, very large needles that are circular. And the same size, but possibly longer. These are 40-inch Chow-Goos with their bamboo circulars. Yeah, so I think that will come in handy. And she also had a whole stack of patterns and things that she was getting rid of. And we came across this one, which is very, to me, is very sentimental and special. And so I'm really excited that we found this. Michelle actually found it in the pile. And this is for a round knitted dishcloth, and it's to make something that looks like this. So this is probably a pretty common dishcloth. I saw a lot of people making these to support the Ukraine effort. And yeah, so the story behind this dishcloth is that when my husband and his sisters were like in high school-ish, middle and high school, my mother-in-law would just bring her knitting with her everywhere, and she'd be at games, she'd be, you know, waiting for various things and just making tons of these. And so this is a very classic family type thing, and so this was her pattern. And so I haven't made one of these before, but I'm excited to try it, and we'll see. So yeah, it has, I don't know, like, it's just, it says for mom down there. It has different scribbles on it. You can tell it's a photocopy. There's some water damage and handwritten notes on top of it. And so, like, it's just, I think it's a fun sentimental thing. So even though I didn't grow up in that family, I'm still connected to it, and it's kind of a way for me to engage with some of their history. So I'm looking forward to trying out some of those. And she also, in there was this baby blanket pattern book. And so here's some of the options for there. see. The ones I thought were pretty nice. They have this one in the middle that's like a feather and fan pattern. I really like that. And yeah, I mean, they're all pretty cool. I'm not sure I would make them that large, but I like the idea of potentially using them for making like a smaller baby blanket that could be used with a car seat or something. Yeah, so that was pretty nice. And yeah, so I'm just really grateful to her for destashing to us, and I look forward to using the yarn and knitting up some of those dishcloths just for sentimental purposes. Alright, so that's all the knitting content I have for today. I'm going to transition into our travel Idaho trip. So if you're interested in checking out some classic Americana 4th of July fun, such as 4th of July parade, Reed's Dairy, animals, fireworks, and camping. We did 4 days of camping, and that was a lot of fun. Yeah, so that was actually probably the longest camping trip we've had in a while. We usually do 2 nights, and this was 3, but it was actually a really nice getaway. So if you're interested in that, stick around, and I will see you again next time. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and happy knitting. Bye. love the glittery gold ones. Oh my goodness.
They're noisy. Whoa. Oh, whoa.
Oh wow.
Whoa.
Oh yes.
Yep. Whoa.
Oh wow.
Whoa.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.